Hi, the camera's working, so I figured I would do it this morning while the camera's working. All right, so um, these are some examples which I think are helpful. They're from Bipolar Disorder, A Guide for Patients and Families, third edition by Mondamore, MD. We have looked at this one before. So the example is John. He's 32. He's a 32-year-old computer specialist whose idea for a new project had just been turned down by his company. He came to his therapy session and brings along a lengthy handwritten critique of the project that the senior vice president of his division left behind after coming by John's cubicle to tell him that the project had been turned down. You see, I should have known better than to take on a big project. This is quoting him. The senior vice president, no less, comes by with a bad news. Better luck next time, she said, and now I'm never going to move up in the company. What do you say to that? And he's speaking to his therapist. If someone that high up thinks I'm incompetent, I don't know. This is still him. I'm done for. That was the last time I bothered trying something I'm not cut out for. This is the therapist. Did she say she thought you were incompetent? Well, no, of course not. I see. This vice president doesn't tell people what she thinks. Oh, no, that's not true at all. She's got a reputation for coming right out with her opinions about things. But she treats you differently from everybody else. John began to get a little annoyed. Well, I wouldn't think so, but how should I know? I never talked with her before. What do you make of that? This is the counselor. The fact that she came in person to give you the news about your proposal, I think it's unusual. Could it mean she was impressed with some aspect of your proposal and wanted to meet you? Well, I suppose that's possible. I continued repeating John's negative assumptions. And how about the handwritten critique? It was really negative, John went on glumly. She went through every point and shot them down one by one. When had you sent the proposal to Ms. Kaiser? How long did she have it to look at it? Oh, I didn't send it to Kaiser. She's over the whole division. I had sent it to Bob Rodney, my team leader, and I guess he sent it up to her. But I don't know how long she spent with it. Well, she must have spent several hours with it if she gave you back such a carefully organized critique. Don't you think? Yeah, I guess she would have taken all that time and trouble if she had thought it was worthless. And your team leader must have thought it had some potential if he sent the proposal to his boss. Have you ever asked him for some feedback? No, I assumed he'd be down on me for it too. But did you see how your negative assumption stopped you from checking in with your team leader and preventing you from getting what and encouragement from him? I see what you mean. If I hadn't jumped to conclusions, I might have gotten some positive strokes. John is down on his talents and assumes everybody else is too. In, in situations that can be interpreted many different ways, both positive and negative, He tends to go for the negative rather than to seek alternate positive explanations. This, in turn, sometimes causes him to do things that reinforce his negative thinking, and the vicious cycle repeats itself. This might seem to be a trivial example, but it's not difficult to come up with several negative schemas that people with bipolar are prone to. So then this takes us back to cognitive therapy techniques. Cognitive therapy techniques, more specifically focused on bipolar disorder, have been developed. Part of the treatments deal with negative automatic thoughts that interfere with treatment by medication. For example, if a person with bipolar order disorder is troubled by a negative automatic thought, taking mood stabilizer medication is a sign of personal weakness. Every time they take their medicine, they might be more likely to skip doses or stop taking medication altogether. That's bad news. Cognitive therapy works on the psychological barriers to proper proper treatment by replacing automatic negative thoughts and realistic ones. Perhaps more than any form of therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, it holds great promise. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm trying to look at the time. I'm going to leave it there for that one. Then this is the workbook that I said we would try to stay in. Overcoming Bipolar Disorder, a comprehensive workbook for managing your symptoms and achieving your goals, by Bauer, Kilborn, Greenwald, Ludman, and Linda McBride. Okay, so we left off with a tiny little chart. Now, this is 2 pages of a chart. Let me wet my whistle. So, the start of the chart says, for some people, bipolar disorder comes out of the blue sometime in their adult life and hits them like a smack in the face. For others, it seems always to have been there. For still others, it seems to have crept into their lives quietly, insidiously, and taken over. Also, for some people, manic and depressive symptoms come and go, while for others, the symptoms seem always to be there in the background. It can be helpful to recognize these or other patterns over your lifetime, since this can help you disentangle your symptoms from your sense of self, which are different, of yourself as an individual with hopes, dreams, aspirations, skills, priorities, peculiarities that have nothing to do with the condition. All right, so it asks 6 questions. I'm going to read the question. They give you plenty of room to write. I would suggest, if you go to a counselor or your psychiatrist is more than your psycho medication person, I would share this, but just even writing it for yourself is handy. But I would share it because maybe it will help shortcuts, if there is such a thing, when somebody hears this and can redirect you, like from those negative comments to more positive comments, if from a person in your life. Okay, so the first question is, when did you first notice mood symptoms and how did you notice them? How about symptoms of bipolar disorder specifically? So You could have lost a job, you could have lost a friend, you could have lost a house, you could have lost a car, like not having enough money to make your payments. So you write it has like 3 lines. Either you write a line or you write 3. The fact that you thought about that question and formulated your answer is good. Next question. When has been the pattern of symptoms over your life? Have they been episodic, coming and going, chronic, always there, or at least somewhat? Or have they come and gone but left you so devastated that it's hard to put your life back on track? Or has there been some other pattern? So they want, or it's good for you to understand the cyclical nature of this illness, length of episodes. Do you only get manic? Do you only get depressed? But they're very unusual. Like we said, they now think unipolar, which would be one pole and never having the other, usually mania, but now they think it's just a distinct part of bipolar. Another question. What aspects of the symptoms have bothered you the most? So only you can answer that. It might take some thinking about it. It might take overnight. It might not come to you readily. Were there some system, were there some symptoms that you enjoyed experiencing? Just like that Broadway musical that I suggested, the song she says about missing the mountains, that would be the mania. Um, your highest mania, which is bipolar 1, and then your lower mania for hypomanic episodes. There could be a hypomanic episode that your productivity level on your job, your things to do around your house, you have the energy to do more. And they said that, like that could be managed easily, and you could keep it close to the baseline, but you might not be able to do that alone. You may need a counselor. You may need a psychiatrist that either does talk therapy or just does pharmaceutical prescriptions. Okay, so we're done that page. How has bipolar disorder affected your day-to-day life? So that inference would say to me, how does it affect your job? How does it affect your education level? Which the premise of my dissertation was, how can we help bipolar students graduate in 4 to 6 years? I said 4 to 6 years, leaving 2 years and breaks here and there to still succeed, to still graduate. You should have your safety net of people. You should go to a college that has in place like counselors, and you may still have to use some docs that you have at home. But if the university is strong on what they do, you might not have to go home as often, and you might keep up with your studies and not have to drop out. But my thought when I started, my premise was, can we help collegians graduate in 4 to 6 years? I don't know what I'm doing. The accomplishment is the same. Like getting your first degree, whether you get it in 4 years or 6 years. You should be just as proud, even more proud, that you accomplished through these mental health situations that were somewhat obstacles to your graduation. All right, so This is the last question, and then there's a little paragraph wrapping it up. If you ever buy these, we're on page 28 and 29. I'm not asking you to buy them, but somebody might find very useful what we talk about here. As are there any parts of your life that you have given up on because of having bipolar disorder? How did it help? How did it happen that you gave up on them? So this could be giving up going to college or starting and dropping out. This could be a job that, you thought you could handle, but also, getting therapy and medication, you didn't feel, or your boss didn't feel, capable that you could handle the position. So, especially on the college level, which is what I worked on, we can try, and people involved at the college level, even professors, like some professors get to know their students really well and could tell if a student was off and could maybe suggest counseling. In my research, there aren't a beaucoup, as I would say in French, many professors like that. They would be called gatekeepers if they take knowing you and send you to a direction of counseling. In my dissertation, it was thought that we could work with professors to feel more comfortable as gatekeepers to, mental health and sending to the counseling center. But I don't know if it's not written in their contract, or they're not a very caring professor, or it's not a small enough class that you could really know your students. I don't know whether that's even conceivable. All right. So this is the wrap up to this worksheet and a half. In this exercise, you have developed a map of how bipolar disorder has unfolded over the course of your life. While most of this workbook is focused on moving forward, this exercise helps you to answer the question, how did I end up where I am today? It helps you to have this perspective in mind, as well as move forward to explore how bipolar disorder affects you in your day-to-day life, and how it affects your family, friends, co-workers, and not least your sense of self. So once you get diagnosed, you have a diagnosis and then you have yourself. You need to handle the diagnosis so you can still have a strong sense of yourself. You're not just, I am bipolar, that's me, that's all of me. No, that's not the way you should look at it. You still have a sense of self, but this illness is okay. Say it's taking up this part of your life, and say you wanted to take up, and your doctor and your counselor wanted to get to this level, which is closer to the baseline that I talk about. That should be the goal. That should be the goal. And especially from me is a wish that anybody with this illness could graduate in 4 to 6 years, and then be so proud that you accomplished something, that maybe you needed a safety net, maybe you needed help from the college, but that doesn't make it any less valuable. So that's the end. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.